In a rural Indiana farmhouse with no air conditioning unit, no electric ceiling fan, and no monthly utility bill, an Amish carpenter named Eli keeps his home cooler in July than his English neighbor does, with a central air system running at full power. His secret is not modern cooling technology. It is 10 specific attic fixes, most of which cost under $4 at any hardware store or bulk supplier. Today we expose exactly what he does and why it works. Number 10. Raw wool insulation. Bats. The modern homeowner drives to a corporate home improvement store and purchases fiberglass insulation bats wrapped in pink plastic. They staple them between attic joists and assume the thermal problem is solved. 3 summers later, the fiberglass has compressed, shifted, and lost 40% of its insulating capacity. They buy more pink bats. The corporation collects another payment. The attic stays hot. The air conditioner runs harder. The utility bill climbs higher every single year. The Amish insulate their attics with raw, unwashed sheep wool. A bulk compressed bale of raw wool insulation costs approximately $4 per square foot at agricultural supply centers. The Amish often source it directly from their own flocks at zero additional material cost, shearing the sheep in spring and packing the raw fleece directly into the attic cavity before summer heat builds. Raw wool is one of the most thermally complex natural fibers on Earth. Each individual wool fiber is a hollow, crimped biological tube coated in microscopic overlapping scales. This crimped hollow structure traps enormous volumes of still air between and inside the fibers. Still air is the most effective thermal insulator known to physics. It conducts heat at a rate of approximately 0.024 watts per meter Kelvin, lower than almost every solid material available at any price point. Furthermore, raw wool actively manages moisture in a way that no synthetic insulation product can replicate. Each fiber can absorb up to 30% of its own weight in water vapor without feeling wet to the touch. It pulls humidity out of the attic air and releases it slowly during cooler nighttime hours. This moisture buffering effect prevents the humid, superheated air conditions that make attic spaces feel like industrial kilns in July and August, and that accelerate the structural deterioration of roof decking and rafter wood over time. Fiberglass compresses, sags, and loses R value within 5 years of installation. Raw wool maintains its crimped biological structure and full insulating capacity for decades without replacement, without chemical treatment, and without a corporate maintenance contract that extracts money from the homeowner every few years. Raw wool fills the attic cavity with a biological thermal armor, but the $4 reflective barrier at number 9 bounces radiant solar energy back into the atmosphere before it ever converts into heat inside the attic structure. Number 9. Radiant barrier foil. Sheeting. The sun delivers approximately 1,000 watts of radiant energy per square meter of roof surface on a clear summer afternoon. That energy does not immediately heat your attic through conduction. It travels as invisible infrared radiation through your roof decking and converts into heat the moment it contacts a solid surface inside the attic cavity. The modern homeowner adds more insulation to slow the heat after it has already entered the structure. The Amish stop it before it ever converts into a thermal problem. A roll of radiant barrier foil sheeting at Costco or any agricultural supply center costs approximately $4 per 100 square feet. The Amish staple it directly to the underside of the roof rafters with the reflective face pointing downward toward the attic floor. This positioning places a highly reflective surface directly in the path of incoming infrared radiation before it reaches the insulation layer or the attic air mass. Radiant barrier foil possesses an emissivity rating of approximately 0.03. Standard bare wood decking possesses an emissivity rating of approximately 0.9. Emissivity measures how efficiently a surface absorbs and re-emits radiant energy. A surface with an emissivity of 0.9 absorbs and re-emits 90% of incoming radiation as heat. A surface with an emissivity of 0.03 reflects 97% of that same energy away before it ever converts into a thermal load inside the attic cavity. The Department of Energy has documented that properly installed radiant barrier sheeting reduces attic temperatures by up to 30 degrees Fahrenheit on peak summer days. A 30-degree reduction in attic temperature directly reduces the thermal load, pressing down through your ceiling into your living space below, and reduces the runtime of any mechanical cooling equipment operating inside the home. The installation process requires no specialized tools, no licensed contractors, and no permit applications in most American jurisdictions. The Amish install it themselves in a single morning using a staple gun and a utility knife. One roll covers an entire standard attic bay for under $5 in total material cost. If you want to permanently eliminate your summer cooling bill using the exact natural physics the Amish have applied to their homes for generations, subscribe right now. We document every attic, wall, and foundation, fix the Amish use to maintain comfortable home temperatures without a single kilowatt of electric cooling power. And the next video covers the $5 window treatment that blocks solar heat gain better than any corporate blackout curtain on the market. Radiant barrier foil stops incoming solar radiation, but the $3 bundle of raw material at number 8 creates a ventilation channel along the entire roof deck that silently exhausts superheated air 24 hours a day. Number 8. Cedar shake. Baffles and ventilation channels. Every insulation system in an attic fails if the superheated air has nowhere to escape. The Amish understand that insulation alone is a passive defense that slows heat transfer, but never eliminates the thermal load accumulating in the attic cavity. Ventilation is the active offensive weapon that continuously purges thermal buildup from the attic before it accumulates to temperatures that overwhelm even the best insulation system. The modern contractor installs thin foam baffles between rafters to maintain an airflow channel between the insulation and the roof deck. These foam baffles cost $3 each at corporate hardware stores and crack, compress, and disintegrate within 5 years of exposure to the freeze-thaw temperature cycle that every American attic experiences between winter and summer. The Amish cut ventilation baffles from thin cedar shake boards for approximately 50 cents per linear foot using hand tools they already own. Cedar is a naturally rot-resistant wood. Its aromatic oils chemically repel insects, mold, and fungal growth without any synthetic chemical treatment applied to the surface. Cedar baffles installed in an attic rafter bay in 1985 remain structurally sound and biologically clean today, 40 years later. The corporate foam equivalent installed in the same year has dissolved into brittle white fragments scattered across the attic floor insulation. The Amish install these cedar baffles along every rafter bay from the soffit vent at the eave, all the way to the ridge vent at the peak of the roof. This creates a continuous, unobstructed channel of moving air along the entire underside of the roof deck. Cool air enters at the soffit. Solar heat radiating through the roof deck warms the air inside the channel. Warm air rises by natural convection and exhausts continuously through the ridge vent at the peak of the roof structure. This convective loop requires zero electricity, zero mechanical components, zero filters, and zero maintenance. It runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, powered entirely by the same solar energy it is simultaneously expelling from the structure. The hotter the sun gets, the harder the system works to remove that heat. Cedar baffles create the convective exhaust channel, but the $4 bulk material at number 7 seals every air leak in the attic floor that silently pumps conditioned air out of your living space all summer long. Number 7. Raw hemp rope caulking. The modern energy auditor uses a blower door test to identify air leaks in a home. They find them concentrated around attic hatch frames, pipe penetrations, wiring holes, and the gaps between wall-top plates and attic floor sheathing. They recommend expensive spray foam and synthetic caulk products that off-gas volatile organic compounds for months after application and require reapplication every 5 to 7 years, as the synthetic material shrinks and cracks with seasonal temperature changes. The Amish seal. Every one of those gaps with a material that costs $4 per pound and has been used as a building sealant for over 1,000 years across shipbuilding, barn construction, and farmhouse assembly traditions. Raw hemp rope, twisted tightly and packed firmly into gaps and cracks in the attic floor assembly, creates an airtight, fibrous, completely natural seal. This technique is called oakum packing in traditional maritime and construction trades. The Amish adapted it directly from barn and farmhouse construction methods passed down through their communities across multiple generations of builders who understood that the best sealant is one that never needs replacing. Hemp fiber is naturally resistant to mold, rot, and insect damage. It does not shrink or crack with seasonal temperature changes the way synthetic caulk does after a few years of thermal cycling. It expands slightly when it absorbs ambient moisture, which actually tightens the seal during humid summer conditions, when air sealing matters most for keeping conditioned air inside the living space. The Department of Energy estimates that air leakage accounts for 25 to 40% of the total cooling and heating energy wasted in a typical American home. The overwhelming majority of that leakage occurs at the ceiling and attic floor boundary, where the conditioned living space meets the superheated attic environment. Sealing those leaks with $4 per pound hemp rope costs a fraction of what spray foam contractors charge, lasts 2 to 3 times longer, and delivers identical thermal performance without the toxic off-gassing that contaminates indoor air quality for months after application. Hemp rope seals the air boundary at the attic floor, but the ancient thermal mass strategy at number 6 uses the physical weight of a specific natural material to absorb daytime heat and release it harmlessly into the cooler nighttime air. Number 6. Dry sand. Thermal mass. Layer. This is the Amish attic fix that surprises every modern building scientist who encounters it for the first time. Between the ceiling joists of an Amish farmhouse attic floor, beneath the wool insulation bats, there is often a 2-inch layer of dry, coarse sand spread evenly across the entire ceiling surface. It costs approximately $3 per 50-pound bag at any landscaping supply center. The Amish install it by the ton across the full attic floor area of a standard farmhouse. Sand is one of the most effective thermal mass materials available at any price point in the building materials market. Thermal mass is the ability of a material to absorb large quantities of heat energy without experiencing a rapid temperature increase. Sand possesses a specific heat capacity of approximately 0.8 joules per gram per degree Celsius. A 2-inch layer of dry sand spread across a 1,000 square foot attic floor contains enough thermal mass to absorb the entire daytime heat load transmitted through the roof on a peak summer day without allowing that heat to penetrate through the ceiling into the living space below during daylight hours. The physics work in a precise sequence. The morning sun begins heating the roof surface. The heat moves downward through the roof deck, through the radiant barrier, through the wool insulation layer, and finally reaches the sand layer at the attic floor. The sand absorbs that incoming heat energy and stores it as a temperature rise distributed evenly across its enormous combined mass. By the time the sand has absorbed enough cumulative heat to begin transmitting it through the ceiling, joists into the living space, the sun has already set for the evening. The outdoor temperature drops. The ventilation channels begin exhausting the stored heat from the attic cavity. The sand cools overnight and resets its thermal absorption capacity, ready to absorb the following day's full solar load. The living space below never receives the peak daytime heat pulse that damages comfort and drives air conditioning energy consumption. The sand intercepts it entirely, delays it through the day, and allows the nighttime ventilation system to eliminate it completely before it reaches the occupied rooms where the family lives and works. Dry sand absorbs and delays the peak heat pulse, but the $4 bundle of natural fiber at number 5 creates a continuous evaporative cooling effect across the entire attic floor, using nothing but ambient humidity and natural airflow. Number 5. Burlap evaporative cooling matting. In warm and semi-arid climates across the American Midwest and South, the Amish deploy a cooling technique that exploits the most powerful phase transition in atmospheric physics, the conversion of liquid water into water vapor. This transition, called evaporative cooling, absorbs an enormous quantity of thermal energy from the surrounding environment during the phase change. It is the same physical principle that cools your skin when perspiration evaporates on a hot day. The Amish scale it to the entire attic floor using $4 burlap sacking available at any agricultural supply center or farm store across rural America. They lay heavy burlap matting across the attic floor over the insulation layer. During the hottest months, they dampen the burlap with water drawn from the farm well in the early morning before the day's heat begins to build in the attic cavity. As the attic temperature rises through the morning and airflow moves through the cedar ventilation channels, the water in the burlap begins to evaporate. Each gram of water that transitions from liquid to vapor absorbs approximately 2,440 joules of thermal energy directly from the surrounding attic air. That thermal energy leaves the attic space permanently as water vapor is carried out through the ridge vent opening at the roof peak. In dry climates with low ambient humidity, a dampened burlap attic floor can reduce peak attic air temperatures by 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit during the critical afternoon hours when solar intensity is at its maximum. The effect is most powerful when combined with the cedar baffle ventilation channels at number 8, as the moving airflow accelerates evaporation continuously and carries the water vapor out of the attic before the local humidity level rises to a point where the evaporation rate slows and the cooling effect diminishes. The Amish do not install electric evaporative coolers that consume power, require filter maintenance, and break down in the middle of August. They wet a piece of agricultural sacking in the early morning and let the physics of water vapor phase transition handle the rest of the day entirely on its own. Burlap evaporative matting pulls heat out of the attic through phase transition physics, but the ancient passive ventilation architecture at number 4 exhausts the accumulated heat of an entire summer day through the roof peak using zero mechanical energy and zero electrical consumption. Number 4. Hand-cut ridge vent. Extensions. The standard corporate ridge vent installed on most American homes is a narrow plastic strip, approximately 3 inches wide, running along the peak of the roof. It provides a minimal exhaust opening that is chronically undersized for the volume of superheated air the attic generates on a peak summer day in any warm American climate zone. The Amish extend and widen the ridge vent opening using hand-cut cedar boards shaped and fitted along the entire roof peak for approximately $4 in raw lumber costs, sourced from local sawmills. The physics of stack effect ventilation dictate that the volume of hot air exhausted through the ridge is directly proportional to the size of the opening at the peak and the temperature differential between the attic air and the outdoor air at any given moment. A wider, taller ridge vent opening exhausts dramatically more superheated air per hour than a narrow plastic strip of the type installed as a standard feature on most production homes built in the last 30 years. The Amish cut extended vent caps from cedar boards, angle them precisely to shed rain while maximizing the open exhaust area, and install them along every linear foot of the roof ridge from end to end. The extended cedar ridge vent works in direct coordination with the soffit vents located at the eave of the roof. A larger exhaust opening at the ridge creates a stronger convective draft that pulls more replacement air in through the soffit vents at the base of the roof. More replacement air moving through the rafter bays means more thermal energy exhausted from the attic per hour of daylight. The system self-regulates automatically. The hotter the attic gets, the stronger the convective draft becomes, and the faster the entire system purges the accumulated heat load. Amish farmhouses built in the 19th century, with properly proportioned hand-cut ridge vents, maintain lower peak attic temperatures than modern homes built in the 21st century with undersized plastic venting components that corporate builders install because they are cheap, fast, and require no skilled carpentry to fit. Hand-cut ridge vents maximize the convective exhaust capacity of the entire roof system, but the $4 plant-based strategy at number 3 uses living biology to shade the roof surface and reduce the incoming solar heat load before it ever penetrates the roofing material. Number 3. Climbing vine roof. Shading. The most thermally efficient surface on a building in summer is one that never receives direct sunlight. The Amish have acted on this truth for generations, using fast-growing climbing plants trained up the walls and onto the lower roof sections where afternoon solar exposure is most intense. Climbing plants like hops, wild grape, and Virginia creeper cost approximately $3 to $4 per seedling at agricultural nurseries. Planted along the south and west-facing walls in early spring, these vines grow aggressively through summer, covering the wall surface and extending onto the lower roof sections where solar gain peaks during afternoon hours. The vine leaf canopy directly intercepts solar radiation before it reaches the roof surface, reducing the radiant heat load by up to 70% on covered sections. Transpiration creates a sustained evaporative cooling effect across the entire shaded surface. The air temperature against a vine-covered wall can be 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, cooler than against a bare wall under identical solar conditions. The Amish plant them once, train them onto simple wooden lattice frames built from scrap lumber, and the plants self-maintain for decades. Living vine shading reduces the solar heat load at the source, but the $2 natural fiber doorway treatment at number 2 blocks hot outdoor air from infiltrating the living space while allowing continuous passive cross-ventilation to flow freely through the entire home. Number 2. Woven reed and grass mat. Doorway screens. The Amish keep their farmhouse doors open all summer long. This is a deliberate passive cooling strategy that the modern air-conditioned American home has completely abandoned in favor of sealed, mechanically cooled environments, consuming enormous quantities of electrical energy every month from June through September. The Amish weave doorway screens from dried river reed, cattail stems, and bunch grass into dense mats hanging in the doorframe from simple wooden dowel rods. These materials cost nothing when harvested locally, or approximately $3 to $4 per bundle at agricultural supply stores. The dense fibrous matrix slows air velocity and filters particulates while keeping the airflow path open. The dense weave shades the doorway from direct sunlight, preventing solar radiation from entering as radiant heat while maintaining the cross-ventilation draft. A home with open doors and windows on opposite walls generates a natural draft that continuously replaces warm interior air with cooler air from the shaded north side throughout the day. North and east openings stay completely unscreened to maximize cool air intake, while south and west openings carry the reed mats. Zero electricity, zero equipment, zero monthly bill. Woven reed screens maintain the passive cross-ventilation system that drives cool air through the living space. But the $4 bulk material at number 1 is the single attic fix that ties every other cooling strategy together and delivers the largest measurable reduction in summer indoor temperature for the lowest possible material investment available to any American homeowner. Number 1. Loose fill cellulose. Blown insulation. Every cooling strategy on this list operates more effectively when the ceiling between the attic and the living space possesses maximum thermal resistance. The radiant barrier stops incoming radiation. The sand layer absorbs the residual heat pulse. The ventilation channels exhaust accumulated thermal energy. But all of that upstream management still allows a measurable percentage of heat to migrate downward through the ceiling on the hottest afternoons. The Amish stop that final heat transfer pathway with the oldest, cheapest, and most thermally effective bulk insulation material in the American market, loose fill cellulose. Cellulose insulation is manufactured from recycled paper fiber, treated with boron compounds for fire resistance and pest deterrence. It costs approximately $4 per bag at Costco and every major hardware supplier. A single bag covers approximately 40 square feet at the depth required for an R38 rating, the minimum recommended by the Department of Energy for most American climate zones. Blown to 12 to 15 inches deep, cellulose achieves R44, reducing ceiling heat transfer by over 80% compared to an uninsulated attic floor. Cellulose outperforms fiberglass bats for one critical reason. It flows around every pipe, wire, joist, and obstruction, filling every void completely. Fiberglass bats leave gaps around every obstruction. Those gaps are thermal bridges that allow summer heat to bypass the insulation and flow directly into the living space. Cellulose leaves no gaps, no thermal bridges, and no bypass routes. The borate treatment simultaneously eliminates every insect and rodent attempting to nest in the attic. Rodents cannot nest in borat-treated cellulose without ingesting a lethal dose. Insects cannot colonize it. Maximum thermal performance and complete pest exclusion from the same $4 bag. The corporation sells you a new central air conditioning unit every 15 years at $4,000 to $10,000. They sell you electricity at $200 to $400 per month from June through September. plus maintenance contracts, filter replacements, refrigerant recharges, and emergency service calls. The total cost of mechanically cooling an average American home over 20 years exceeds $30,000, not counting the original equipment purchase. The Amish spend under $200 across all 10 of these fixes, installed once, maintained with materials costing pennies, delivering genuine summer comfort without a single kilowatt of electric cooling power, or a single corporate bill arriving every month for the life of the home. 10 fixes: raw wool, radiant foil, cedar baffles, hemp rope, dry sand, burlap matting, cedar ridge vents, climbing vines, woven reed screens, and loose-fill cellulose. Every item under $4. Every item deployable by a homeowner in a single weekend with basic hand tools. Every item drawing on 2 centuries of Amish thermal engineering knowledge that the modern American building industry has deliberately overlooked because it eliminates the need for the mechanical systems, utility contracts, and maintenance services that generate continuous revenue from every homeowner who does not know these fixes exist. Click the next video on your screen right now to discover the $5 Amish window treatment that blocks summer heat gain better than any corporate blackout curtain on the market. We will see you there. Thanks for watching.